Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shobowale. Former president of Ghana, Jerry Rawlings, is dead. He died at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra of suspected COVID-19 complications. A military ruler who later joined politics, Rawlings ruled Ghana from 1981 to 2001. He led a military junta until 1992 and then served 2 terms as the democratically elected president of Ghana. In North Africa, the United Nations says Libya's rivals have reached a preliminary agreement to a roadmap for elections. The announcement was made by the UN acting envoy to Libya, Stephanie Williams, who is overseeing the week-long talks being held in neighboring Tunisia. The political peace talks started on Monday following last month's ceasefire agreement signed between the warring sides in Geneva. The UN has been keen to show progress at the political talks between dozens of Libyan representatives gathered in Tunis to determine their country's political future.
Today, the participants of the Libyan Political Dialogue Forum reached a preliminary agreement on a roadmap for ending the transitional period and organizing free, fair, inclusive, and credible parliamentary and presidential elections. They outlined clear steps for reaching these elections, including agreement on a constitutional basis. According to the process they outline, elections will be held in no more than 18 months. The roadmap also outlines steps for uniting Libya's institutions, restoring public services, and to begin a very important process of national reconciliation and transitional justice, and to quickly address the issue of those displaced inside and outside of Libya, who must be allowed to return to their homes in safety and dignity, with guarantees that their rights to housing, land, and properties will be protected.
The spokesperson for the United Nations Secretary General Staffan Dujarric has expressed concern about the ongoing tensions in Ethiopia's Tigray region and their impact on civilians. He says the UN is urging governments in neighboring countries to keep their borders open for people forced to flee from their homes. Dozens of people have been killed and injured since early this month during attacks in the western Oromia region of the country, as well as in Tigray.
Turning to Ethiopia, our humanitarian colleagues say they remain concerned about the ongoing tensions in Tigray region and their impact on civilians. We, along with our partners, are working with the authorities to ensure the protection of civilians and humanitarian workers, continued access to people in need of assistance, and availability of funding given increasing needs. We are told that communications continue to be disrupted. There are also reports of intermittent electricity supply shortages, as well as shortages of basic commodities such as flour and fuel are also being reported. Banks remain closed and the shortage of available cash is becoming much more acute. The closure of banks and inaccessibility to the region hamper our humanitarian operations, including the traditional humanitarian cash transfers to 1 million people. UNHCR tells us they are working with authorities in Sudan to help more than 7,000 refugees who fled Ethiopia in the past 2 days. This obviously following the clashes in Tigray region. UNHCR and local authorities are screening and registering people who are arriving in Sudan. More refugees from Ethiopia are expected to arrive in neighboring countries. Our UNHCR colleagues are stepping up their preparations for emergency relief by working with governments and partners.
Meanwhile, the United Nations Refugee Agency has warned of a growing humanitarian emergency among civilians forced to flee fighting between federal troops and local forces in the Tigray region in northern Ethiopia. Anne Encontrad, the agency's representative in the country, says that neighboring Sudan has already received more than 10,000 Ethiopian refugees since the fighting started. She adds that the region is running low on food, fuel, and other basic commodities. She also also warns that the conflict has opened up the possibility of sexual exploitation of women and children.
UNHCR has already observed in Sudan, eastern Sudan, the arrival of asylum seekers from Tigray. 7,000 have arrived in very poor conditions over the last 3 days. And we're very concerned that with the continued attacks, military attacks, and the fighting, more persons may flee, including refugees who are in the camps, and other members of the population. They may seek safety and security in Sudan, and that if that happens, that could be a major emergency for UNHCR, where we will call on the international community to support the government of Sudan. We definitely need to have food, fuel, and other basic commodities brought into the region because they're running low already of sugar, oil, and all the basic needs, including banking services. There's no cash. We're very concerned about a situation that it's prone to have sexual exploitation of minors, women, and children who are innocently trying to lead their normal lives. We're also concerned that we must have access to assess the needs of other populations that may have needs, including the disabled, elderly people who depend on others for assistance, normal humanitarian assistance.
Let's get more on this story from a professor of French and Francophone African Studies at the University of Lagos, Professor Victor Ariole. Thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa, Professor. What's your take on the military offensive launched by the Ethiopian government on the Tigray region?
I assume that it is a self-defense mechanism. Having been told or having allowed the Central Parliament to remove immunity from their 39 top officials who are the ruling group of that region, including the president, it means that any of the 39 could be a target of elimination by the central government. So the region will be very, very much interested in defending their leaders. Hence, the need for them to summon their militias to be ready and attack the central government in whichever way they come, so as to save their own self-determination will, which is part of what 1995 Constitution stated for them, that all the 9 regions in Ethiopia, they have rights for self-determination. And having right for self-determination means that the central government has no right to impose any rule that could be detriment to their own survival. And so, launching military offensive against them will require them also to be ready to defend themselves. And we know that almost every region in Ethiopia have their own militias. It's not even in Ethiopia. Africa seems to be everywhere the same. Each one has one kind of militias defending one kind ethnic group or the other, which are all wrong. It cannot help Africa get anywhere. Anyway, but for now, what is happening in Ethiopia requires intervention of supranational powers like AU and United Nations, so as to avoid genocide in that country.
All right, then, Professor Victor Ariole, Professor of French and Francophone African Studies at the University of Lagos. Thank you so much for your insight on Network Africa. Well, let's head over to Ghana now, where former President Jerry Rawlings has died at the age of 73. He's said to have died at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra of suspected COVID-19 complications. Well, let's get more on this story from Joy News TV correspondent Daniel Dadzier. Daniel, how are Ghanaians reacting to the death of former President Jerry Rawlings?
Well, the entire nation is in a state of shock. Teniola. Jerry Rawlings is the longest serving president in Ghana's history. He was president from 1979 to 2001. There was a huge period of time over to Dr. Hillary Mann, but for the majority of those 19 years, he was president. Already his party, the party he founded, because we know that the former President Rawlings took Ghana from military rule to democratic rule in 1992, where we had the Fourth Republic election there with its constitution. He founded the NDC, the National Democratic Congress, which has ruled and governed the country for some 4 terms since 1992. His party has decided to pause campaigns indefinitely. They did not say when they will be campaigns. The former President John Mahama, who is a presidential candidate in the election, which will take place in 25 days, made the announcement just a few hours ago in the Ashanti region, the capital Kumasi, which is the second largest region in the country, population-wise. The governing president and the ruling party, the NPP, has also suspended their campaign. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo and his vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, have suspended their campaign. We know that there were also some campaign efforts ongoing in the Volta region where the former president hailed from. And that campaign effort has also halted from the NPP. And so the country is in a state of shock. I mean, you just walk through the streets and people will stop you and ask you, because they know you're a journalist, they will ask you if it is true. You have to keep going for our front desk. I was sitting at our front desk for some 30 minutes and we've been inundated with inquiries from persons who are in a state of disbelief and are finding it difficult to come to terms with social media. There's also awash with tributes, pictures of the former president, his interviews, and everyone is just talking about what we remember most about Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings.
Well, Daniel, we understand he's been ill for a while and he died from COVID-19 complications. Can you confirm this for us?
So, Teniola, our sources confirmed that he was suffering from COVID-19 some days ago, yes. But that is all we know as of now. We have not received any official word about what exactly caused his death.
Just very quickly before I let you go, Daniel, what are some of his legacies? What is Ghana going to miss the most about him?
Well, like I said earlier, he was the longest serving president of the country. The political party that he founded, the National Democratic Congress, cannot be written out of any political story in this country. They are currently the largest opposition party. I mean, he was president of the country democratically from 1992 to the year 2001. Prior to that, he led the Provisional National Defense Council, which sort of brought the coup d'etat, that's the end of all coup d'etats. When he became president, actually, there was a period where he went after all those who had led coup d'etats ahead of him, before him. And so it was very clear that he intended to bring up the last coup d'etat that would herald development in the country. And it can be said, arguably, that the past 28 years from 92 to now have been the most stable that Ghana has seen. Ghana is celebrated across the world as a beacon of democracy. And it all began with, first of all, his decision to send Ghana back into democratic rule. And most importantly, one thing that I personally don't think he gets enough credit for is his acceptance of the 2000 election results and his decision to hand over power peacefully himself to the former president, John Akufo, which was the first time that Ghana changed government through the ballot box since then, we have seen peaceful transitions of power, and it can all be traced back to that decision he made in 2000, because he was a sitting president. He could have made any decision to try and entrench either his political tradition in power, or he himself to try and extend his stay in power. So I believe that will be the biggest legacy that Jerry John Rawlings will leave.
All right, then, Daniel Dadzie, Joy News TV correspondent, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you, Tim.
Côte d'Ivoire's President Alassane Ouattara and his main rival, Henri Konan Bédié, say they have decided to make peace in the country after weeks of violence over a disputed presidential election. The two men announced that they will keep talking following a meeting in the commercial capital Abidjan on Wednesday, which they described as an icebreaker. The government says 85 people have been killed in violence connected with the election, in which Mr. Ouattara won a controversial third term. A number of opposition leaders have also been arrested after denouncing the poll and setting up a rival administration. The Mozambican government has denied reports of mass beheading by militant Islamists in the northern Cabo Delgado province. The governor of the gas-rich province, Balige Tuabo, says there are no recent killings in any districts of the province, contrary to reports. He added that the last known killings by Islamists took place on April the 6th. The state media had on Tuesday reported that more than 50 people were beheaded by the militants at a football pitch in a village in Muyudumbe district. South Africa has scrapped the list of banned countries from which travelers were initially not allowed into the country. Speaking to the nation last night, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced several measures opening up the economy further, but appealed to citizens to keep adhering to anti-COVID regulations. He also announced that from the 25th to the 29th of this month, 5 days of national mourning will be observed in honor of those who died of COVID-19 and gender-based violence.
The president's announcements to open up the economy and international travel further came with a plea for continued adherence to the COVID health safety regulations to avoid going back to harder lockdown.
Wearing a mask every time we leave home is far, far better than having a second wave. It is also far better than a return to lockdown and better than having to shut down our economy once again.
As expected, the aviation and general tourism sectors are happier and hopeful something could be salvaged of the business year.
We certainly welcome the announcement by President Ramaphosa last night to open the borders and effectively do away with the high-risk list. And it really enables us now to start looking at really realizing potential for the full recovery of the aviation, travel and tourism industry. So it's very good news for us.
It will take long to fully recover, but immediately once everything is open, we are just already hoping to get bookings where we could fetch some tourists from the airport, and then also the hotel starting to be full. Then because also places are open right now, like Table Mountain, Cape Points, wine tasting, then we'll be busy. Yes, it will take time to recover fully, but gradually we will make it.
Amidst all the hope is still the worry that opening up to international travelers could worsen the already worrisome COVID stats South Africa is experiencing today.
Opening up travel at this stage to countries around the world does not pose a serious risk to us because we are insisting that individuals have a PCR test within 72 hours. And for those countries where that's not possible, that an antigen test, a rapid test, where you get an answer in 15 minutes, is available now in the ports of entry.
It's been a tough 10 months for the aviation and tourism sector in particular. Hopefully, these empty spaces will fill out this holiday season in a safe manner.
It's been a really long and tough wait for the tourism sector, as well as the many affiliated business sectors, to get back to business. Hopefully now, with the pronouncement of government, they will begin an equally long journey to recovery. From the Table Mountain, Cape Town, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's novel Half of a Yellow Sun has been voted the best book to have won the Women's Prize for Fiction in its 25-year history. The Nigerian-born author, who won the prize in 2007, was chosen in a public vote from a list of all 25 winners. Other past winners include Zadie Smith, the late Andrea Levy, Arnold Shriver, Rose Termaine, and Maggie O'Farrell. The one-off award marks the anniversary of the prize, formerly known as the Orange Prize and the Bailey's Prize. Half of a Yellow Sun is set in Nigeria during the Biafran War, exploring the end of colonialism, ethnic allegiances, class, race, and female empowerment. Published in 2006, the book has received global acclaim. Congratulations to her. And in Egypt, the country's iconic Giza pyramids is played host to a yoga retreat organized to raise awareness on violence against women. Over 200 people participated in the exercise. Take a look. Yoga trainer Diala Jamaluddin leads about 200 people through a yoga class in front of the majestic Giza pyramids during sunset.
Lean all the way back and then leaning forward. Always thinking about your own.
Honestly, I was shivering in the beginning. I felt like I'm about to cry because the event was really beautiful, the venue beautiful, the pyramids usually giving this feeling of strength and greatness when someone approaches them. I felt really lucky that I managed to organize such an event in front of something huge like that.
The event, Yes Yoga Day, is a way to raise awareness about the benefits of yoga, and the location gives participants the opportunity to revel in the pyramid's grandeur.
Behind, take it to the other side. Slowly bend the knees, press your chest over the thighs.
I see that yoga started to pick up in Egypt, but it was very late. It took us years to organize events like the ones that take place abroad. I believe that this year witnessed major changes due to COVID-19. Many people stayed at home, so they started practicing and taking it more seriously. I feel like this year is the one when yoga really started to develop in Egypt.
The organizers of the event, a collaboration between Egypt's Alex Bank and Yes Wellness Club, donated participants' fees to ACT Egypt NGO, an organization working in the field of battling violence against women and girls in Egypt.
There are nearly 200 participants in the yoga sessions, where the proceeds will go to ACT NGO to fight one of the biggest practices in relation to violence against women, which is early marriage among women and children.
The event took place at the Nine Pyramids Lounge, which is the Giza Pyramids area's first restaurant. And that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shobowale. Bye for now.